Aloha, Flow Riders. Welcome to another edition of The Flow. I am Doc Rock, along with my awesome co-host.
Hey, everyone. It's Katie.
Today, we got some cool stuff. It's a new month, so that means we're going to start off whole brand new oriented things, which I guess is going to be cool. So I am psyched. I am ready. Let's go. Katie, what's this month's theme?
You seem low energy today.
No, I seem cold.
Fire you up.
I seem cold. I just want you to know that it's freaking freezing. It's 56 degrees in my office right now.
Oh, my gosh. I know. I can't complain.
Insane.
It's freezing here still in New England, but you're right. It is a new month. We are in March, which means hopefully it'll start getting warmer. In the meantime, we will try to keep as warm as we possibly can. But you're right. It's a new month. It's a new topic. We're talking this month entirely about interviews and interviewing skills, which I know you're like in on, Doc, because you've done tons of trainings and it's one of your favorite topics. So I think it's going to be a good one. I'm excited.
Honestly, I think one of the big things about interviews for me is, and I just want everybody to understand this, okay? Don't think that it's crazy, or I don't even want to say it takes a special skill. It takes one single skill, curiosity. That's really all it takes. But what you do with that curiosity can absolutely make or break, your interview style. And then I think the second thing is I have well over 1,000 interviews in the bag, well over. And I mean, interviews, some of the, because I worked in radio. So basically any artist that came out, and was performing somewhere like 87 to 2010, I probably interviewed, so I have lots and lots and lots and lots of interviews in the tank. That, don't think that as a special thing. That's just something that you do and that you pick up. And I watch interview shows a lot because I'm curious, which is a nice way to say nosy. So I love interviews. So it's one of my favorite formats of content. I probably watch 2 or 3 a day. And I think what happens is people want to do it, but they don't necessarily watch interview shows and pick up skills. They're just, focused on the information. You know what I mean? So I think once you get the hang of it, you will watch interview shows differently. And all of my pet peeves will probably become your pet peeves because I learned it from my teacher and they will become yours as well. I just put money on it because once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's disgusting.
I mean, the fun part about this is that, like anything else, it's a practice. So it's going to take time. It's going to take planning. It's going to take practice, right? You're going to have to do a bunch of them before you start feeling in the space you want to be in, before you understand like what you want to bring to the table as an interviewer. As usual, safe space. We're going to all put in the reps together. And as you now hopefully know from this new flow of the flow, this week we're going to be talking entirely all about the topic. So like how to approach thinking about interviewing, how that works in Ecamm, all of Doc's incredible pro tips. And then next week we're going to bring on an expert. The week after, we're doing an interviewing lab. So we're actually going to practice together. And then the 4th week, we're going to do our mailbag episode. But guess what? March actually has 5 weeks in it. So we get a bonus week where we're going to do what we've been calling a podcast cafe. So we're going to do a Zoom session where we can all practice and ask questions together. So a little bit somewhere between the interviewing lab and the mailbag episode. So we're going to be spending a lot of time in the world of interviewing. So this is your time right now to ask all of the interviewing questions, think through whether or not interviewing is something that you want to do, and work through the content with us. So there's no perfect people here. We are working through it as well. We're all at different levels. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Wait a second. Is my name misspelled?
I don't know what she's talking about. It's perfectly
Marianne
right.
saying my name is misspelled.
Look at it. It's right. Shh. I'll take MC.
It looks right to me, but I wasn't paying attention earlier.
I just changed it. That's the power of Ecamm, people.
It means
You can change these things on the
right
fly.
all along. It was right all along. Well, you know what? Before we dive too into this, I would actually love to know. I know we have a bunch of flow writers hanging out with us here in the live studio audience. Can you let us know whether or not you currently do an interview show or plan on doing an interview show? Is this something that you're planning on doing regularly? Let us know. So type in, I do an interview show, or I'm an interviewer, or interview. Let us know. We'd love to kind of hear where you're at with this. Are you all like tens and we're just going to have fun chatting? Or are we more in the kind of just getting started, want to learn a little bit more about this? But yeah, let's
I am excited.
Break it down.
We have a new flow writer joining us who is not a new Ecamm member, but is kind of a new flow writer because she decided she fixed to get into her podcasting game. And I see that Nabia's in the chat. And I'm like,
Welcome.
Okay, she came 2 weeks in a row. I mean, she's about serious about getting her podcast started. So I just want everybody to give her a little round of a hand, throw the my favorite emoji in, because big ups to you. I think a lot of people are thinking about podcasting, and it's kind of like one of these things where, don't think, man, just jump in. So we did a show on Sunday with Strick and Kirk, and we talked a lot about podcasting and sort of where it's going and what's helping out. So super stoked that people are jumping in and taking the she had the cough button on point. That's awesome, Kate. Anyway, she got the podcast on YouTube and interviewing guests. All right,
there
cool.
You go. Great.
Yes. And Andy is also interviewing folks. So thank you for that, Andy. And then Mauricio Tech is also doing interviews. So perfect. We are in there. Let's go. All right, Katie, what do you want? How do you want to frame this interview thing? And yeah, we'll get to it as we get to it. But I'm curious, what do you see?
Well, I think it might be interesting to start off. So I generated a bunch of kind of discussion prompts for us to talk about, which I thought would help guide the conversation. And one of the first ones right off the bat is this idea of what is the difference between a conversation, which, our show is definitely really conversational, and an interview, an interview.
That is a dang good question.
I thought so. So I thought we could start there because I think a little bit of this is also going to be tied up in how the host, how us as hosts want to approach thinking about an interview. But I thought we would start there. So again, if you're hanging out with us, feel free to answer this question as well in the chat. We'd love to hear what you have to say about this, but what do you think is the difference between a conversation and an interview, Doc?
Okay, so the funny thing is nowadays when I do my show, I try to keep it more conversational as opposed to interview, and I think that's a reflex of having done well over 1,000 interviews. That being said, I don't think that one is necessarily better than the other. You have to understand your audience, and this is I would switch that word for you, community. You have to understand your community, and this is where people get themselves in trouble per se, is because some cases, this is where Jeff and I fight all the time, because Jeff wants to have written down questions and written down questions that the person who's coming on to talk to your audience with you already knows what those questions are, so that way they don't have to think too much on their feet. And I get the idea is to make the other person comfortable, but I say what happens is you end up getting the same canned answers they can get on 17 other shows. And I always go out of my way to make sure that whatever they're feeding, unless they specifically ask for it, whatever they're feeding is something that is not Googleable or searchable and will have been said on 70 other shows, right? So if I had the opportunity to interview, let's see, somebody who we just absolutely love, right? Let's say I had an opportunity to interview Alex from Speedify. I'm not going to ask him, how'd you come up with the idea for Speedify? What? 700 people have asked him that question. And if you go to the website and you go to speedify.com/about, guess what? The answer's there. I'm not asking questions that you can read. I want to dig deeper into it and, try to find a nugget that will help people understand it better. You know what I mean? Even in the question of how does it work? Like, what is the craziest analogy you can make up to explain to people how it works? Because other people have, said like, it's doing this and it's doing that. And my analogy is always, it's Voltron, right? It takes all of your wired connections or wireless connections and Voltrons them together into an internet superhero. But yeah, so I try to do conversational more because Marion said it the other day when we were on the show. People like being the fly on the wall. They like being nosy, which is the reason why DOAC is shot the way that it's shot. Whereas we look at each other because we're remote. But when you and Jill are on the couch, you guys also look at the camera.
They're facing
in
each
a
other.
way,
Yeah.
it's better to just look at each other and have a conversation because people are nosy. And you have totally been at the restaurant and you hear somebody talking about movies and you be like,
Hey, go ahead.
you know what I mean? And so that fly on the wall, when Marion said that the other day, like, I was like, oh my God, she is so right. People like to be nosy and they love that fly on the wall. And now I've said it right here, it's like friends in the living room with a beverage. Exactly. That's what I try to turn mine into because I also feel like people are, this is going to sound crazy coming from somebody who teaches on the internet a lot. People are over teaching. And I don't say it's a bad thing, but I feel like some people, how do I explain this? Oh, wait, Katie has kids. You ever notice that sometimes you have to teach them without letting them know that you're teaching them? You got to trick them into learning something? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. People are cocky and they think they know stuff, right? Except for he knows that Man United is the best, so we'll let that slide. But, sometimes you have to slide the info in a manner, or like if you're going to give a pill to Odin, you got to mix it in the dog food so he don't know he eating it. You got to like smash it in there. So there's the difference for me. I like the conversational style so that way it's more, you can let your curiosity shine that way too.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's funny. I know you. Every time we chat about this topic, you have a similar answer where you're always trying to look for the content that hasn't been shared before. I've been giving that a lot of thought as we've been leading up to this episode, and I think I actually care less about that. I feel like the more that I get into interviewing and the more that I think about like what I really enjoy in the interviews that I watch is not like okay, let me break it down this way. Because my community is a curated specific community, right? So like I've built this community of people who are coming to my show for a particular reason, whatever the reason is, right? And they're part of my community. I feel like bringing guests into that space, so like bringing someone into my basement, bringing someone into my living room, bringing someone into my community is me introducing my community to someone that I think they may not know or may bring value to them.
Yes.
And so in that case, in that mindset, I actually don't care if I ask them questions that they may have answered before, because it's my understanding and expectation that my audience probably doesn't know them in that situation. And so I want for them to feel like they're showcasing the reason why I've invited them in. And I've made a promise in setting up that episode interview of what I'm going to deliver to people, right? Like I'm looking right now at our notes for this episode, and I always have like all the way on the far left, right? Like what the topic is. And then I have like what I am promising, what you and I are promising people will learn from this episode, right? So like we're going to talk about the 5 core elements of a strong podcast interview, why listening is powerful, like these things that we've promised that people will get out of this episode. So I feel like for me, I think I agree with you. I think it's I'm becoming more and more conversational, and the prep time that I'm spending is way less on questions as it is on what do I want to get out of that experience? What do I want the guests to get out of that experience? And what do I want my community to get out of that experience? Like you said, like what is the hidden value or the overt value that we're offering? And how can I guide and almost like curate the conversation towards that? And so I care even less necessarily about like what the questions are, or even if they've repeated the same things before, because I feel like for the most part, you're still introducing them to your audience in some way or another. Maybe it's a little bit different though, now that I say that, for like someone like, for example, Pat Flynn. If we were to bring like a Pat Flynn into an Ecamm interview, the Ecamm audience would know who Pat Flynn is because
Bingo.
he's like one of the big names in this world. And in that instance, 100% I agree with you. I would want to be thinking through, I would probably be trying to keep it as conversational as possible. I don't think that I actually would have a huge list of questions prepped, or I definitely don't think I would send him questions in advance. But I still in that instance would want to have in the back of my head or in front of me, what specific thing about Pat Flynn would my community find the most helpful? And that could be something he shared before, but we're bringing it in like in a specific way, or it could just be something that I know in having chatted with him or spent time with him, or the reason why I brought him on would delight my community. So
Okay, correct.
Long-winded answer, but that's kind of where I'm at. We're thinking about interviews.
So let's clear that real quick. I'm gonna make it super simple for everybody. You or them give the 20-word or less reason why they can help them get something out of this interview. That's different. That's not the whole bio. What people do is they ask these crazy questions, and then, Marianne's like, oh, I'm a mom from Australia and I have kids and my husband does this. And then, oh, we like to, cook shrimps on the bobby. And I'm like, yo, that got nothing to do with you helping me plan, sis. Like, you know what I'm saying? So there is a thing known as deliver the introduction in 20 words or less. And unfortunately, which we all know from going to conferences, people ain't learned that skill yet. And I be grinding my teeth. Like, I am XYZ and I help you to get you know what I'm saying? The same thing that, what's his face? I want to say Clark. I always mess this dude's name up. I think his name was Clark.
Yeah, he
Clark
did the session on introductions.
Yeah, exactly. That's the one. Now you know what I'm talking about. So here, before we go deeper, let me kick over to the Flow Rider says, and Compton said, I've just started my own podcast recording service business. All right, dude. All right, listen, trust me. This is something that comes up a lot. I started my own recording service business, and I've been taking tips from the Ecamm fam to help clients show up better from the jump. Okay, P.S. Ecamm has been such a time saver. Okay, we'll take flattery.
Yay.
I mean, we'll take flattery all day.
Yeah, we'll take that all day.
That one works. And then Marian said, it's like hiding the vegetables. They come for the taste, but they get the nutrition. Yeah, in a way, I think that is one of the best ways. And Nob says, I don't want my audience to be bored. I want them to get something they can use. 100%.
Yeah.
She said, I mostly don't read the bio. All right, same here. Like, I don't normally read the bio either. Here's where I read the bio. This is going to sound super crazy, but here's where I read the bio. Because I am a curious person. If I go somewhere and I see an interview, as a matter of fact, this just happened. I was watching an interview with a girl by the name of Grace Andrews. Grace Andrews was the person who was kind of the producer and the reason for the success of DOAC. And she left a couple years ago to start her own thing, and she recently hit the interview circuit. So I'm watching an interview with her. I did know that she was a producer with Steven, but after that interview was over, I hit the Google box and started spying on Grace. And then I found 5 other interviews that she's in, and I listened to 4 of them. And what I got out of it is, yes, there's a little crossover where she keeps some things the same, but there's a bunch of other nuggets that the interview people get out of her that hasn't been said in a different interview before. So it's worth going to do that extra research. And it's just like if I tell Katie that, oh, there's this new tea that's, coming from Smith's, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's like in the orange box. Katie can go to Smith's and look it up herself. You know what I mean? So like, I don't mind giving those kind of breadcrumbs. I just don't want to repeat history. Like, I swear everyone has asked, Stephen Clark how he lost the arm. I mean, like, dude still drums, bro. Like, he still drums his face off. Like, get into that, What's it like playing drums with one arm? That's been covered a lot. You know what I mean? So like, yeah. Oh, so
Yeah,
you
I
got your
think you're
gold medal. Like, how was your comeback? Like, yo, she told everybody what the comeback was like. Don't ask her that. Ask her what it's like being a hyphy kid from the Bay Area.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think it is a shift, and I will say this as someone who has definitely done the like, so tell us a little bit about yourself, or has read bios out. And I it's funny, like as you say that, I think even about like how I approach watching movies, right? So like I'm sitting on the sofa, I'm watching a movie, I've seen it before, someone pops up who like catches my interest to
Oh,
whatever level. And I'm like,
IMDb and watch.
where have I seen that guy before? And I'm like, I'm on my phone, like looking it up, right?
Yeah.
But I actually do the same thing when I'm listening to a podcast or watching a live show or like engaging in an interview. If someone has said something that's piqued my interest, you better believe that I'm looking them up, writing it down, and I'm not ever going to the show notes to get that.
Yeah.
I'm never listening to, like, when I listen to their bio at the beginning, it's probably like in passing and I'm like, all right, like it hits me. I think it's worthwhile to do and to include out of respect for the guest, like, because part of the reason why the guest is giving their time to join you on a show is because they offer some value to your community, and ideally they're also trying to grow their presence and their brand and their business and sell services and products, etc., especially in a business podcast setting. So like I think you owe it to them to include that information and figure out a good way to bring that up. But I do think you're exactly right that if you structure your interview in an effective way and you know your community really well, you will pique your community interest well enough that they will look that information up on their own.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
you can do a little follow up maybe at the very end of the interview once you've piqued their interest. But I love that in planning out this episode, we have a section in our outline that's just called the shift, right? And the three things we need to shift are stopping a question reader.
Yeah.
Right. So stop just reading out the questions. Stop being a traffic controller. So stop looking down at your notes and moving all around. Like stop thinking all about that, and stop being a resume reciter, which
Yes.
I think these are the three things. And instead, you need to think about it as being a guide, a translator, and I love this one, a curator of moments. So you should always be
Yes.
curating an experience, curating moments. We should all, as interviewers, care more about how our guest and our community feels in the moment. Like, are you making them like feel at ease? Is it a fun experience for them? Is it a thoughtful, thought-provoking experience for them? Is your community getting something out of it? Is the guest like feeling like the time is just flying by? And I know these are hard things to hit each time, but you also know if you're hitting them. Like you will know when you're chatting with your guests, the questions or the things that you're asking that make them uncomfortable versus like, oh, they're so excited to answer that kind of question, or they're so excited to be in that part of the experience, to recount that story, to be in it with you. So it is a shift. It's a shift away from, your job is not to just ask questions, listen, answer, ask questions, listen, answer. Like you really need to be thinking about the overall experience that you're creating.
Yeah, it's almost like you're panning for gold. Like, I love this from MDH. She said it's almost like when someone says, "Hey, what camera you using?" Family, nothing
Molly.
chaps my nads more than
Yeah.
when people ask that question when I'm in an interview. I'm like, yo, we are talking about this, right? We brought Pat Flynn on to show you how to increase your, extra streams of income or whatever. And people want to ask him about his studio. I'm like, bro, it's on his channel. Go look it up. Like that. I'm really not a fan of that. And what I've learned to do is, I used to answer them because I want to give the people in the audience the most value, but I've learned to ignore those because that's an inappropriate question for that particular show. And then, at the end, I'll come back, or I'll type it in myself because I probably already know, because I probably helped them set it up. But, like really, I try to ignore that question. Like it's really crazy. Those ones come through. Now, we did talk about something, and this one in my interview class, when I was teaching interview class, I used to talk a lot about how to prep, but not over prep. And this is going to be hands down the hardest thing that you do. Okay, I'm going to put it in the weirdest way possible because it's just uncomfortable, but it works.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody is, you're going to go out on this date with somebody, or even the first time meeting with somebody, of course, you're going to Goog them. Like this is the new era, right? We're going to Goog them, but you don't want to Goog them so much that you know stuff before they tell you it, because then the genuine level of curiosity is out the window.
It's gone.
And it will
Exactly.
sound exactly like you stalked them. So
Yeah.
it's that same level of the way you would stalk a potential date or a new employee or whatever. Like, you want to have a little bit of information, but you don't want to be so dug in that when they tell you something that should light you up, there's no light.
Yeah.
But here's where the research does come in handy. It allows you to go in and get the questions that someone hasn't asked before. Get your audience the value that will come from nowhere else. And here's why this works. Not only is it valuable to your audience, but sometimes when you share your recordings with that guest will happily share that moment where you ask them a question that nobody ever asked, that allows them to provide more value to their community as well. So I love it. We did it like last month when I had Becky on. I asked Becky a question and she was like, whoa, nobody ever asked me that. And I was like, bingo, got her. Got her. Like, I am looking for one of those in every single interview. And sometimes that does come with prep. Sometimes just I hear it and I'm like, yo, I'm going to pull this string because I think other people may have missed this string and I think it's a good string to pull on. So go ahead, because you said something really cool about threads in there too. So go ahead.
Well, no, I think I think you're right. You can definitely over research and over prep. I think as you are researching a guest, particularly if it's someone that you don't know well, like I would start, if you are new to interviewing, I would start by bringing on people who you know well. Like, you know what they're passionate about, you know what they are working on, you know enough about it that you don't have to do a lot of that research. All you need to do is think through, okay, why is it that I want to pull this person on to my show? What value are they giving my community? And talk about those things, right? So that will be an easier first round. But as you start bringing people on that you don't know as well, and you need to be doing research, what you are looking for is what is their raison d'etre, right? Like, what is their point of being? What is the thing that makes them tick in the space that you're asking, right? So like, we know, again, we've been using Pat Flynn as an example, but we know a couple things about Pat Flynn without doing hardly any research at all, right? So like, we know that Pat Flynn has a business called Smart Passive Income, which is all about building up passive income, right? So we know that side of him. But if you do a real quick Goog for Pat, right, you also know that he's a giant Pokemon fan, and you also know that he is a huge fan of Back to the Future. This would take me maybe 3 to 10 seconds of research to figure out, right? I could stop there, literally stop there, and that gives me enough interest and curiosity that the moment he comes on, we could talk about any one of those topics and he would be delighted. He could talk in detail about them and I could connect them in really weird ways. Like you could find connection points between different fandoms and talk, like there are things that you could do with just those 3 very simple high level points to be able to do an entire interview that would still benefit your audience. So I think you're absolutely right. Like I think I will say this as a super over planner, overthinker, over everything. The spending all of that time researching isn't going to actually make you a better interviewer. You are right that we're not giving ourselves enough time and space to find those threads, to find those moments of curiosity. And if you are similar to me and you are an overthinker, over planner, over everything, do all of the work, do all of the planning, write out all your questions, do all that stuff that checks all those boxes for you and makes you feel happy. Do it 2 weeks in advance of when the interview is, and don't look at it in those 2 weeks
there you go.
in between, so that it's in your head and you're noodling it and it's stuck in the back of your head, but you don't have it memorized. You're not looking at it during the interview, because then you've done the work and you will feel ready, but you're still awkward enough and not in memorization enough that you're likely to ask better questions.
That is so good. Oh my God. I just thought of something funny and I don't have a good analogy of it, but I'll try it with this little card. One of my favorite things, I'm watching Colbert, and Colbert is always like this, and he's sitting there and he's talking to people, and then he goes, all right, anyway, so let's get into this. Like, literally one of my favorite things, because I'm like, yes, Steven, now we're going to get what I really came to see from this person, right?
Yeah.
He is contractually obligated to ask Emilia about ponies because Peacock has, I don't know if you're watching Ponies yet, it is off the chain. And Haley Joel Richardson shines in this thing. Like, I know a lot of people don't know who she is, but you'll remember her once you see her in Ponies. Her and Emilia have the perfect, duo. Anyway, new show on Peacock called Ponies. I won't get into deeper. But he's contractually obligated for Peacock to bring the show up and talk about it and to play the clip reel. But everybody's friends with Khaleesi. She's like the nicest person and you just want to go deeper. So he goes into things that, are more about her and her life and like trying to learn how to speak Russian for the show. And then one of the funny things, he's like, hey, so did you actually learn to speak Russian? Because your Russian is really good. She's like, oh, no, I just memorized those lines. I can't say jack. But she pulls it off so good that you would like, oh my God, she learned how to speak Russian because it's glorious, right? And I've had a friend double check and he goes, oh my God, her accent, everything is perfect, So anyway, interesting stuff like that. And I agree with Katie. And I never thought about the way you said it, but research it so you can be done with it and then close the book and then stop. That's absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
That's helped me a lot, even like for this episode, like for these episodes. I like on Tuesdays, so it's like every week. So when I'm done this episode, or even like right before we start recording this, I will plan out it's the episode 2 weeks in advance. And I will do all of the notes and research and thinking through like what we want you all to get out of it and whether or not it'll be helpful for you and discussion points, etc. And then I send it to the rest of the team. And then I don't look at it again until like maybe 40 minutes before we're starting the show. And then I have it up in the background to kind of reference here and there. But I do, like, in that time, I know I've put it in my brain. I've thought about it. We've like worked on the past episode. So it's there in the background. I know it's there, but it's not stressing me out because I have a good enough memory that I know we're going to cover what we need to cover. We're going to allow for, the flow writers to ask questions. We'll bring that into the conversation. I know Doc has a good experience and background in it. So it's trusting yourself and trusting what you're trying to accomplish. And, and you just said it in what you just said, in that if you have only one thing that you want to get out of the audience, right? So like if you're Colbert and you just have to hit that one thing for the interview, great. Write that one thing down that you have to hit and that's it. And then let the rest of the interview be everything else that you just want to know or comes to your mind as you're talking with the person. Then great, you've checked the one box and maybe that's the one question that you know you have to ask. So then write down one question.
Yeah, that's the
and
heater.
The rest of it can just be, right? Like that's the heater. Like, and that's fine. Like so that's a good way to start and approach it as well. But I think you do want to err more conversational than
you get it out. You get the conversational points out there. It kind of flows. And so I just want to give you what Katie wrote down as what the over preps are, and I love these because it's actually about what I would say. Over prep is you got 30 questions. And then over prep also means because you have so many questions, you don't have any flexibility because you're trying to get through the questions, which is the same as the last one, which is kind of clinging to the outline. And so I think another one that we didn't put in there, but I do think is very important, is that even if it's not in the beginning, you want to have icebreakers in there somewhere, something that relaxes the guest. So if the guest is feeling a little stiff or the guest is struggling, like you want to have an icebreaker question that shows them that you feel them and that you want to make them more comfortable. So I'm going to give you an example icebreaker question. Okay, so Katie, for the VHS Club, really amazing show, something that I absolutely love. But I have to ask you something absolutely semi-personal because me and my friends fight about this all the time. So I want to help you. I want you to help me win this argument. So it's Friday night and we're heading out to the video store. And are you a get one movie that you guys deep dive into on that Friday? Or are you a get 3 to 5 movies and do the power run?
Oh, 3 to 5 power run all the way.
You see what I'm saying? Some people like the idea is something that's okay. Wait, let me add a follow-up question. So then I'll tell you why. So here's the follow-up question. So would you say that's just because of your over love of movies, or did that come from being the Blockbuster manager?
Oh my gosh. I think it comes from wanting to create a fun experience. So 3 to 5 means we're in it for a movie binge weekend. So it's all the snacks, it's blankets on the floor, it's pillows, a ton of friends, and settling in for a long run of back to back to back to back. Whereas one movie, we might think we're going to watch it over and over again, but maybe we watch it and we thought it was okay, and then the experience is over. So multiple means it's a whole movie watching experience.
I love this. So before we dive deeper, what's your movie watching snacks routine?
Okay, well, I need salty first, so definitely either popcorn or cheese and crackers. But then I love like Sour Patch Kids or some kind of like gummy sweet treat. Typically like more sour than sweet.
There you go, man. You know, we're in the movie days, right, people? Red Vines, popcorn. In Hawaii, we have something called Mochi Crunch, which is a rice cracker that you mix with the popcorn. And it gives it sweet, salty crunch along with the popcorn and the butter. And then, oh, my favorite was putting pickled jalapenos in the popcorn. It's so good. That's a Hawaii thing. That's a Hawaii thing. But you see, people, like, it's not you. I'm asking her the question, but like for a lot of you guys would never know that Katie used to run Blockbusters, right? So she knows all these movies, and this habit of watching movies probably came from working at Blockbusters, whether you would know it or not. But that's where you find like a deep cut, and you let this person's like unique thing shine, and you know you can kind of go all in something like that. So that's a good idea of like a deep cut question that's fun. It's not necessarily about the topic, but it shows a little bit of the personality off. And so make sure you watch VHS Club. Let's just throw a quick promo in there.
Yeah, please do. Please come and join us. The one thing that I will say is sort of my newfound pro tip for this, if you don't know, so like Doc's question was a great example, and he knows me well enough to be able to figure out those kinds of questions. He knows what all of my favorite things are, and so he can very easily ask all of the stuff. If you don't know, and someone shows up, particularly in a virtual setting, start with be observant. Start with what is in their space, right? So you could ask me about my wallpaper background. You could ask me about my stack of VHS. You could ask me about the talk boy that's hiding there, the My Little Ponies, the crocheted dudes, my cardigan that I'm wearing, like my purple microphone, right? There are lots of visual cues in how I show up that even if I don't say anything at all, and even if it's not at all relevant to the topic that is at hand, that would be a great icebreaker question. The same as when you're at an in-person event and you're feeling nervous and you don't know how to go up and talk to someone and you want to try to push yourself to get to know people, starting with how they look is a really great like inevitably someone is wearing something, holding something, looking a particular way that you can just go up and compliment them. That is an easy in. Hey, I love your glasses. Oh my gosh, your shoes are so fun. Like this is a great, like, make someone feel great, starts a conversation in a really low lift way. No one is going to be like, back off. I can't answer that question. It's not a yes or no. Even if it just lasts a minute, it still gets you it gets you feeling more comfortable as the interviewer. It gets your guest feeling more comfortable. So all the visual cues.
I'm laughing at Paul because I know to Paul, ketchup is spicy. So I'm laughing. Paul, Puerto Rican, bro. What do you want? Yeah. I'm laughing at Paul. And you're right, because Harry did it when Harry came into the room earlier, and Harry complimented my Manchester. Like, anybody knows the way to get to talk about Manchester United, the Raiders, the Celtics, Notre Dame. We're in. We're done. The whole conversation is. It used to be that Paul and and Keely used to have to chase people away from talking about those things because I would change the whole subject.
Yeah.
Yes. Check it out. I know where you can get one of those because I made it. I can totally help you with that. And then, Doc, listen, we're going to have to get together. I'm going to have to send you a bag of Mochi Crunch so that you've seen it if you lived here.
do.
It's the little rice crackers, the small brown ones that you see in the local stores. And yeah, you have to mix it with popcorn. It is the craziest thing. I'll find a way to send you some so you can be like, oh my God, it's crack. It's actually crack.
We need a whole snack episode. We should do if ever you need interviewing questions for anyone. People always have a favorite food, a favorite drink. Like you can inevitably find stuff in that. Like that would give you no shortage of questions.
Yet, but I asked Jill to make the Creator mixtape post for the Ecamm fam. Because I want to know what people be listening to while they're creating or getting ready for a show so that I can make a new list, right? And, those are the kind of questions you could ask. Or like, ask your community, hey, like, what's your snack routine or not snack routine? Like maybe you're just, hydrate, always got, emergency water on deck, things like that nature. Okay, so let's cover something else that's always very, very, very important. And this, when I talked about this pet peeve that you're going to find out, and once you hear it, you won't be able to unhear it. I absolutely hate when the interviewer leads the question. Okay. So if I say to Katie, hey, Katie, as the marketing director for Ecamm, what would you say Ecamm's greatest feature is? ? Is it the interview capabilities? Is it the ease of production? Is it, the price for performance? Like, what would you... No, fam. Ask your question and shut the front door. Like, just zip it.
It can be really rough. I will not name names, but I have definitely been on a few interviews. Thankfully, no one within the Ecamm fam, so y'all are safe. But I have definitely been on a few interviews where not just leading questions, but the questions were so long that I literally forgot what the question was. Like as an active participant in the conversation, the question just went on so long because they were likely panicking and trying to figure out what the question was. So instead of just being like, "Hey, Katie, what's your favorite microphone? What would you recommend to the Ecamm fam?" End of question, as Doc said, go for it. They would say like, okay, well, I think we're going to talk about microphone technology next. And I know that microphones can be 9-hour story. And then can you tell me? And it would just go off on this huge, long question. And I've been guilty of some of this. It comes from a lack of prep or maybe over prep, or you're worried about the time, or you're trying to get the exact answer that you want to get, but it's never worth it. It doesn't make the guest feel great. And leading questions in particular are never going to get you the answer you want, because you're either leading them so they will be annoyed and answer completely differently than what you want, or they're just going to answer exactly with one of your answers and you've missed the incredibly intelligent, cool thing that they would have said if you had just left them alone. So I see why people do it. It's a very easy trap to fall into.
100%.
But it's a fear of silence. It's a fear of silence, and it's not worth it. So it's something to practice for sure. Thinking through like how to leave quiet, how to actually listen without thinking about the next question. All of that is a practice and is
and to that
worth
point,
practicing.
One other thing that happens, which is kind of the same but a little bit different, say you're going to get on a guest, and that guest, say you score, right? You find the guest that you've been dying to talk to because you have some stuff that you want to learn from them, and say you lucked up and you got them as an interview participant. One thing I've seen a lot of nervous creators do is, in a way, try to let the guests know what they know and not let what the guest knows come out to the audience. And again, it's a nervous habit. Again, it's a mutual respect for the guest because you're so happy that you finally got them on the show and you really look up to what they do. And, I get it. Like, it's definitely hard, right? So if I were doing Ecamm thing and Seth popped up in the chat Sorry, I just call him Seth, but it's Seth Godin popped up in the chat, and he's like, "Hey, yeah, sure, I'd love to be on the Flow or Creators and Stuck or something, because that's Mary Lou and our dream is we're gonna have Seth Godin on the Creators and Stuck." It'd be super hard not to be, fanboying and wanting to say like, all the stuff, because yes, I have read every single book, and yes, I have a hard copy of every single book, and yes, I have an audio version of every single book because that's my library. But like, that's not important to the audience, and it'll be super hard not to do it, and probably will do it anyway. But if you can do your best to avoid that, avoid that. You know what I mean? Like that is very hard to do. And I've seen so many interviewers do it. And when I see other people do it, it chaps my nads. But I've totally listened back to some of my interviews and goes, oh, you did exactly what you hate.
Yeah, we've all done it.
It happens. It's going to happen. So, yeah, try your best not to allow that to happen. And so Katie mentioned something in the outline, whereas the guest is so panicking and freaked out over the tech. And I like this. I love the fact that you put this.
The host, not the guest.
Sorry, the host is freaked out over the tech.
The host is worrying too much about the tech. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I wonder if we're live. Like, I hope this is streaming out. First of all, never say that. Never be like, oh, I hope this is going. Because you're recording. Now that's in your recording, and now you got to go edit that out. Right? Don't say things on the live that you're going to then have to edit out of recording because you have these nervous tics. Let me explain this to you once and for all. Your last name is not YouTube. You have no capability of adjusting the tech. You ain't Infinity, Cox, what's that one in the sky from Ding Dong? T-Mobile. You ain't nobody. You are not a network company. You have no way of fixing the tech. You're not Shure, you're not Rode, you're doing your show. So just let it come out when it come out. If things happen, maybe even tell your guests, if anything happens to the tech, here's our contingency plan. We will go offline, and then we will do this recording where I will call you on the phone, and you're going to put the phone on the table, and you're going to just go on your computer and open up QuickTime and press record. Or if they're an Ecamm user, open up Ecamm and press record. Make sure they're an Ecamm user. Then you can get affiliate commission. And then, I'm going to ask you the questions offline. And we're going to get it recorded anyway, and we'll just get it chopped up anyway. Like, we want the live to go. We want this recording to go. But if something happens, here's our backup plan. Like, know what the backup plan is already. As a matter of fact, I've had somebody recently say, the tech goes crazy. Are you available next Wednesday to try again? And I was like, Mary, sweet mother of Jesus, that's brilliant, right? So think about that. So now that's out of your way. And we have an entire Ecamm community. People, I want to practice my interview mode. I want to practice my Zoom guests. I need some voluntoads. I'm going to do this on Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Anybody can come through. Here's the link. And then I just need to practice setting up Zoom. So I never see anyone do this. But what I do see, everybody's, I was trying to do a thing and it didn't work and I don't know what happened. Did you practice? That's just the only question I ever have. Did you practice? Can you imagine driving at 220 miles an hour in a $2 million Ferrari around Bahrain and never practice? And you ever seen one of those cars when they flip? It's not safe. It's not pretty.
Good.
It's not pretty. So, come on, fam. Let's go.
It's not good. And the other thing I want to say in the tech talk, thank you for coming to my tech talk. In the tech conversation, I think one thing that I've definitely been guilty of, and many of us, especially as Ecamm users, can be guilty of, is we over design and overproduce our show and our scenes when we have a guest on. And so then we're looking down at our computer and we're sliding our mouse around and we're reading the comments and looking at the comments and clicking the comments on, and we're changing scenes and we're doing all of this stuff. And as a guest, particularly a non-Ecamm user guest, right? They're sitting there going, oh, I thought we were having a conversation and you're not making eye contact with them. You're looking down. It's giving them the feeling that you don't care what their answer is, and you're not paying attention to them as much as you are to the tech, right? To the software, to the situation that's going on. That would be similar, and I'm also guilty of this, but this would be similar to inviting people into your house and you're in the middle of finishing cleaning and they're like trying to talk to you and you're like, and you're going down and getting stuff off the floor and you're wiping down counters. And so they feel like you're not listening to them at all. You're doing what you're doing and you're ignoring them in the room. So it's better, even if normally your show has all the cool things and like when it's just you and your people, you're doing all the fun stuff and you're in it and you're looking down at whatever. If your show is normally like that and then you have a guest on, your guest should just be maybe you and your guest side screen, just like what we're doing right now, so that you can just look at the camera the entire time. You have to train yourself as much as possible to look at the camera so that you're looking your guest in the eye. You can look down occasionally to glance at notes or to see what's going on with the chat, but that is a practice I think we all need to get better at, is figuring out what is the simple setup, simple run of show, simple structure, so that you can just have that conversation and not have to worry about all of it. So you're present in the moment. And I know it's really hard in a digital environment. I know it's hard to look at like I would rather be looking at all of you and at Doc down here. Like this is what, but it doesn't look as good as when I'm looking up at the camera. So practice the actual listening, even if you can't see them, even if you don't have a teleprompter. Get comfortable with keeping your eyes up at the camera and glancing down from time to time, but making sure you're as present in the moment as you can be. So that's my 2-minute tech talk. Thank you for attending.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming to my tech talk. What's really funny about this is when we were doing the show last month and we brought Becky on, I had my notebook and I was like, yo, this is going to be one of the rare occasions where I get to interview somebody where I actually need the answer. So, hey, listen, girl, I'm not being rude. I am writing notes. And then she just laughed at me. But then the audience is there for it too. And then I kept showing them my notes to let them know I am actively writing this stuff down. And in a way, what that does is it gives the audience permission to also take notes, because you're letting them know this is actually valuable information, right? And I hear, James is in the chat. I hear people like James say that all the time. Did you guys hear that? Did you catch the drop that this person just gave you? Yeah, but I think there's something about you actually writing notes and showing the audience, hey, fam, I am taking notes. Look, I wrote that down right here, because that is a very valuable point, and it's super important that we catch that. I noticed this when you're watching certain sports interviews, and certain interviewers, they're forever taking notes while they do it as well. If you want to see, before we run out of time, I want to give you guys some people to check out who I just think are just some of the best in the game right now when it comes to interviewing. I'm going to say hands down right now, the best in the game is Stephen Colbert, period, point blank, in the story. But some fantastic up-and-comers who are really good at this now, wasn't always, but good at it now, would be Trevor Noah. Trevor Noah is an amazing interviewer.
Trevor Noah is amazing.
The way his new show is set up, where he has his best friend on, and the funny thing is the guest is sitting there, and Trevor and his homie will go into these weird conversations of just them two talking, and the guest is sitting there like, what? And then it's funny, and it's done on purpose. It's a way to help the guest relax. So they'll start arguing about something from their childhood, and then the guest starts cracking up, and then they go back to it. So I love when they do that, because I can tell what they're doing. But it's absolutely hilarious. A really good show, and one of the best recently was they interviewed Cleo Abrams. So go watch the Trevor Noah, Cleo Abrams one. And I also say another person who's really good at interviews right now is I was going to say Jefferson Graham, but it's Jefferson, the lawyer that talks in his car. My brain just went dumb. Just look up Jefferson talking in the car lawyer. He's really good. It'll come to me in a second. And then Hassan Minhaj. All of the above
please.
Are good.
Googling.
All of the above are good. While Katie finds my answer, let me go to Flow Riders Say, and let's see what we say in the chat. Caroline said Jefferson Fisher. There we go. Thank you, Katie.
Sorry.
The hardest part for me is eye contact. My camera's above my screen. I always find myself looking at the scene to see the guest instead of looking at the camera. That the answer to that question is Elgato teleprompter, and Katie is right here.
Probably do.
Katie is right there. I moved her over there. And it says, I hate looking down, it's distracting, but I've done it. But I put them in solo if I must, so while the guest is speaking. Now, I want you to realize that even sometimes in television, if you notice when they go to a side scene, and please, this scene work. It did work. A lot of times when they go to a side scene like this person is looking down, which is fine because the guest is holding court, because the guest is talking to the audience. So like, stop stressing over looking down. You got notes. I would rather see my host looking at their notes and getting the best information out. I am never judging the host for looking at their notes if they're helping drive the interview and getting good things out, which is why you watch people like Stephen Colbert have their blue cards. So you know he's looking at his notes, like he's not trying to hide it. So when you see the rundown people on the news with their pink papers, it's a lot of guys will use pink papers. Those are there. Let me answer this question. What advice would you give to a producer who has multiple hosts for their podcast? That's normal. I'm producing a show with multiple hosts. That's just how I do it.
This is so interesting, Daniel.
It's a good question.
And drop us a follow up so we make sure that we understand. But we've been sort of exploring this. And you may have noticed, or you may not have, is that it can be very difficult to do interviews with multiple co-hosts asking questions.
Yeah, Katie threw me under the bus.
Which is why for this show, I actually stepped out and I've been letting Doc do interviews solo, just because I feel like it has been a weird experience, and I feel like it takes away from the guest, at least for us. It's different, obviously, for everyone, but for us, it feels like we were passing questions back and forth, and it was complicated for me to be like, okay, well, I want to make sure that like Doc gets equal questions because he's got good questions, but I have questions, and it felt like we were losing the guest in the middle of all of it. So for us, I just pulled myself out of that situation, and who knows, maybe we'll do some solo episodes with just me. But so you do need to think about that. And for all of you who said, looking down is really difficult, I think Doc's point is super, super valid in that it's the looking down and messing with the tech is very different than looking down at your notes. And I do think keeping your guests top of mind and saying that to them is way better than just futzing around with it, right? So me saying like, oh, thanks so much, Doc. That was a great answer. All right, I'm just going to double check with the chat to see, what's going on with them. If they have any great questions, I can look down and do that. Doc knows that I'm not ignoring him. I'm looking for upcoming questions. He's prepping. He's part of the conversation. He feels like he's part of the show. That's way better than me like glancing down to look at him, glancing down at the, looking distracted. So I think having it as part of the conversation, normalizing it is a way better approach. Doc's idea of having like a physical notebook and being like, all right, I'm writing that down. Like, all of you need to be writing that down as well. That makes your guest feel awesome. They've said something brilliant and you want to write it down. Thinking about the guest and using those as ways to give yourself permission to look around is way better than the kind of panic playing with the tech or panic looking down at the chat so it's a walking line. You definitely want to be more realistic, and absolutely the guest is there to shine. But yeah, be honest and direct about it, or try really hard not to do it. But there's the in between where you're just looking down and ignoring them is definitely can be a really unpleasant feeling for a guest.
Get like a giant pencil or something, something that you could do. I also want to add something real quick before we chime out. Daniel, you just as Katie was explaining this, in a way you can set this up so simply. You're going to say, okay, today, Katie, you're responsible for asking the guest questions, and Doc, you're responsible for going into the chat and pulling out the follow-ups and the heaters so we can make sure that the audience is getting on. And so what I'm doing is, and you've seen this on certain shows, Talib Kweli, the People's Party was really good at this. His co-host or his producer would be in the corner, and she'd be like, okay, here's a follow-up we got to go to, and they would come and they chime in. Or you see the shows where the producer pops up and they have a question from the audience or a question from the phone or something of that nature. So in a way, there's a way to do it. There's a way to do it. You put that other person on the task so they're not just sitting there, but they're also not hammering the guest, because I've totally seen panels where, there's multiple people on the panel and it's not working. Like someone has to be a good driver of a panel. Straight panels alone can be completely whack. All right. So be careful of that, which is why I laugh, because one of the most common questions we would get in Ecamm is like, well, how do I get 10 people on my show? I'm like, bruh, it's hard to do it with 3 or 4, bro. 10 is psycho, and you don't know how to do that yet. And I'm telling you, you don't know how to do that yet with full chest. I know you don't know how to do that yet because it's super hard. It's extremely hard.
You need a producer. If you have 10 people on screen at the same time, you need a producer. You need someone who is not on screen
and a chess clock
to be able to guide through them.
You kind of need a chess clock where the person starts the question and you can just pank and you can just pank and you can just pank, super funny. Okay, so family, this one ran way quick. And
That's all right. It's our intro one.
This is going to be a good month. I want you guys to be thinking about all of this stuff and 5 weeks in March. We want to try to get as much out of this month as possible, especially for you guys who are restarting up shows or jumping in for the first time, bringing on guests. And, again, the number one skill you need for this is be curious, is all get out. And I'm laughing at Rich because Rich said he had to pull over to answer the Jefferson Fisher question. Thank you, Rich.
You're just screaming in the car.
Of course he was screaming in the car. Wait, when are we supposed to go to Dallas? We got to give Rich plenty of heads up so we can be ready. I know we're coming to Dallas sometime this year, Rich.
Yeah, for a card party.
But gang, stay tight. Don't forget, you can always, drop us questions, comments, feedback over here at flow.ecamm.com. This is going to be a quite amazing month. Don't forget the mailbag episode is coming. So we're going to love you to get your questions in via video, like James and Matt and Sharon did last month. And if you don't want to do a video, I'm going to make fun of you. I'm supposed to act like not judge you, but I will judge you. So you can send them in as regular written questions and we'll make it work some way, shape, or form. But we definitely want to.
I'll record the video for you. You just type out the questions and I'll record the video. I'll pretend to be all of you and I'll record the video.
Oh, wait, we got to get Katie a bunch of different costumes so she can come up as different people. Or we'll just make one of the Woobles talk in the background. And yes, now we're on this new situation where I'm trying to get the episode out the very next day. So if you missed part of this, you want to see the replay, I will try to have that done for you today. Today is a busy day. We got lots of meetings, but we'll get it out for you. And I'm loving the new format, Kate. So thank you for this, for being willing to switch things up. This is a lot of fun. And I'm so excited that so many people came through today to hang out with us and try to get everything they can get. So. And be prepared. We're going to make you guys interview each other, so start practicing.
I just wanted to leave you on the final thought that really a lot of this is not about control. So we just got to give up control. And as Doc said at the beginning of this episode, great interviews are about curiosity. So it's, as control freaks here, I'm with you, but we've got to let it go. We've got to set that aside and remember that it's people spending time with real people, right? With the whole purpose these days is to get real with everyone. So let's actually have some of these really authentic, quote unquote, conversations with each other, right? Let's be curious. Let's have some fun. So I think it'll be a really great time. And as Doc said in the middle of the episode too, Doc's been just filled with great points today, but this is, you all have access. ecamm.tv/community drops you into that Facebook group. You can ask for people to practice with you. You can throw a Zoom link into that group and say, hey, I would love to have some people jump in and practice with me. I want to see what an interview experience is like. I want to practice asking some questions. Let's practice together this month. We've got a lot of time. We can get better at this, present company included. So let's all just spend some time together. I love it.
There we go. All right, gang. We be out of here like Vladimir. And I swear this thing's jumping all over the place, driving me nuts. Flow Riders! Out!
Bye, everyone.